Welcome to Scrum Masters Elite_UK. Subscribe to the channel to explore Jesse Kriel's story and lessons in sports leadership. In the world of professional sport, sometimes a story is not simply about victory or defeat, but also about a human journey in search of meaning, responsibility, and maturity. The case of South African centre Jesse Kriel in Japan is a typical example of this, a world-class athlete who continues to set new goals in a completely different environment, where he not only competes but also learns how to adapt, lead, and inspire. Looking at Kriel's journey at the Yokohama Canon Eagles, the first thing that stands out is not the win-loss record, but the way he faces adversity. It was a season with many difficulties. The team did not achieve its initial goals and even struggled to avoid dangerous positions on the table. However, instead of viewing it as a negative failure, Kriel chose a different perspective, seeing it as a process of learning and building a foundation for the future. This approach clearly reflects the mindset of a top-level athlete, where value is not only in immediate results but also in long-term progress. Going deeper, Kriel's story is also a story of leadership. Becoming captain of a foreign club is not only an honor but also a major challenge in terms of culture, language, and human connection. In the Japanese environment, where discipline, collectivism, and team spirit are prioritized, the role of a foreign leader requires a very high level of sensitivity. Kriel must not only lead through on-field skills, but also through attitude, patience, and the ability to understand teammates.
What is notable is that he does not impose his personal style rigidly, but instead chooses to integrate and learn. He has expressed admiration for Japanese rugby, fast, skillful, and intelligent. This openness allows him not to stand outside the system, but to become part of it. This is an important lesson not only in sport, but also in life. Leadership is not about making others follow you, but about finding ways to move together in the same direction. Another point in this story is his consistency in personal goals. Despite many rumors about a move to bigger competitions in Europe such as the Premiership Rugby or Top 14, Kriel chose to stay in Japan with a very clear statement about his objectives. He did not leave for more attractive offers, but instead continued his journey to fulfill what he had committed to. In modern sport, where player movement happens very quickly and is highly commercialized, this consistency becomes particularly noteworthy. From a personal perspective, this reflects an important principle. A person's value is not only where they can go, but also what they choose to stay and complete. Not all decisions should be based on convenience or fame. Sometimes, maturity comes from staying in a difficult environment to fulfill responsibility. A deeply emotional part of this story comes from Kriel's relationship with his teammates, especially Faf de Klerk. The departure of a close friend is not just a personnel change, but also an emotional shift in the locker room. When a team loses a strong personality, it does not only lose skills, but also a part of the memories and collective spirit built over time.
What is admirable is the way Kriel views this separation without negativity. He does not focus on the gap left by Faf, but instead emphasizes the positive impact that his teammate brought to the team and to Japanese rugby. This is a mature perspective. Instead of clinging to loss, he chooses to recognize what existed and pass it on as a legacy. Looking more broadly, Kriel's story in Japan also reflects a major trend in modern sport: cultural exchange. Athletes from South Africa, New Zealand, or Europe who play in Japan do not only bring skills, but also mindset, experience, and different approaches to the game. In return, they also learn from the discipline, organization, and distinctive playing style of Japanese rugby. This is a two-way process where no one is purely giving or receiving. Everyone develops together. In Kriel's case, his openness to learning is what helps him maintain his value at the age of 32, an age when many athletes begin to reduce workload or change direction. Instead of seeing age as a limitation, he views it as a stage to accumulate experience and pass it on to younger generations. This suggests an important lesson: a career is not only measured by its length, but by the depth of experience.
From a personal viewpoint, this story highlights three clear lessons. First, for myself, it is necessary to understand that failure is not the end point, but data for adjustment. A poor season does not mean all efforts are meaningless. What matters is how one analyzes, learns, and improves. This mindset transforms pressure into motivation, rather than allowing it to become a burden. Second, for fans, Sport should not only be seen as a sequence of wins and losses, but as a human development journey. When a player competes, they represent not only results, but also effort, sacrifice, and continuous learning. Understanding this helps fans gain a deeper, less extreme, and more empathetic perspective. Third, for the community, Kriel's story reminds us that cultural diversity in sport is an asset. When different cultures meet, what matters is not who is right or wrong, but how they learn from each other to create a better version of themselves. This is true not only in sport, but also in education, work, and society in general. Ultimately, what remains from this journey is not a specific trophy, but the spirit of persistence and responsibility. Kriel does not only talk about wanting to win championships, but also about building a team strong enough to compete in the long term. This is the difference between short-term goals and long-term vision, in an increasingly fast-paced world focused on immediate results. Stories like this remind us that true value does not lie in how quickly we achieve something, but in how far we are willing to go, and what we learn along the way.
Thank you for following Scrum Masters Elite_UK. Jesse Kriel's journey reminds us that sport is not just about winning and losing, but about growth, leadership, and adaptation. See you in the next stories.